We're back.
False start on New Mexico.
Nope, there was no false start.
Oh yeah, it looked like it false started. Sorry, my bad.
Nope. Yeah, well, I mean, it did false start, but nobody saw it because it hadn't gone live yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple second delay, so it won't show up.
Yeah.
Well,
what's up, Damien Hair Metal? Good to see you. So it's episode number 239. And we are doing our favorite rock and metal debut albums. But before we do that, we have a couple of business things to take care of, such as our shout outs. And of course, we have the POW picks of the week from Carcass. Carcass Pal. What's up, Evan? Good to see you. People are coming in to watch, so right on. I've been super busy, man. Lots of work, which is good. Stuff going into production. Going to be a good year for metal. The Hellstar. I don't know if I put posting pictures everywhere. That Hellstar looks fabulous and it sounds fantastic, man. Rob just did a bang up job on that album.
Distant Thunder.
A Distant Thunder, yep. Yeah, it's fantastic, man. I mean, I've always loved the album, but there is just something nice about. I don't know what he does, man, but he's just got this magic touch. It sounds fantastic.
That was their second album, right?
That was their third album.
Mm-hmm. Third, okay.
It was their third album, their first for Metal Blade, yeah. So anyhow, if anybody's interested in that, I'll put a link in our chat. But I just wanted to mention that because yeah, it's fantastic. And then this Friday, 3 previously unreleased albums from Hades are going on sale, and there's only 250 copies of each vinyl available, and that includes those that are going into distribution, international distribution. So I don't think those will be around very long, especially once they go into distribution. So but anyhow, you can get those from
released on vinyl.
They're being released on vinyl. So yeah, they're releasing the Lost Fox Studio Sessions, which is a bunch of early thrash stuff. Fantastic 2 LP set. They're releasing Save Yourself on a purple haze wax, and there's one other one that's slipping my mind at the moment. But yeah, 3 albums total from Hades. So I'll try and remember. I'll do it now. As soon as I shut up, I'll put the link up while Steve is talking and giving any shout outs he might have.
Nope, I got no shout outs. John?
I got a shout out.
Oh, I do want to say congratulations to John.
There you go.
Yep.
That's my shout out.
Thank you. And a shout out to my wife, Queen Steph. Yeah, it was quite an event. Had more people than she thought and a little less than I thought, but it was a huge crowd, anywhere from, I don't know, 120 to 150 maybe. And there she is.
There's the boss lady.
Yep, there's the boss lady. And and you know what? It was pretty awesome. My cousin did a great job. He was the officiator and had sort of a metal Viking theme. It was non-denominational, so it didn't trigger anybody, but it was still very sacred, poignant, and man, it was just great to see friends and family all in the same room. And then, of course, the Mighty Creeper had to play the last hour, which they did. Unfortunately, shout out to Smoke and Bone Barbecue. They got into a massive accident. So fortunately, all their people were okay, but they didn't make it. So we didn't have food. So that was the only real glitch in the system. But it was quite a night. And we look forward to many, many years of metal happiness. So can't say enough about everybody that pitched in. Yes, even Hair Metal Rob was part of the lineup. I know he felt a little uncomfortable standing in front of people in a lineup with other men, but he's never been arrested, I don't think. So it went fine. He passed the test. But
yeah, my wife and I watched we're watching some of the clips and stuff like that. And she was watching during when you guys were doing the question and answer thing with who does this, who does that, and she's like, tell that guitar player to knock it off. He's being rude.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. I'm telling you what, Creeper has got something though. I mean, they're not really traditional heavy metal, but they're heavy music, and they're just something about them. And I think that's what's going to propel them to the next level is they have a unique sound. They draw on a lot of. I mean, Texas is steeped in metal history, and they draw on a little bit of everybody. But anyway, By the Hellstar. Okay, yeah.
I didn't mean to put that up there. Sorry.
But no, it's okay. But anyway, it's freaking fantastic, man. They played 5 killer songs, including a couple of new ones, and I gotta say, my favorite song is "Push It" right now. So by Creeper, and not the traditional, Salt and Pepper Push It, but the Push by Creeper. But anyway,
Static X, Push It.
I can't see this without singing it.
Yeah, well, you need to hear.
Hey,
the
baby. Tell me why you're hanging around.
There you go. Yeah. So anyway, as far as picks of the week, I only have one.
That's all right.
And the guy that does all my stereo refurbishing and fix up stuff, Alberto Rodriguez, is a genius. He's a brainiac. He can fix any electronic thing. I mean, anything. In fact, I remember Angry Rob gave him a bag full of locked, those little nano, the little, not iPods, but the little, the initial MP3 players that came out, they were like the size of a postage stamp, and they were locked, and he was angry that he couldn't listen to them anymore, and Alberto unlocked every last one of them, and he could play them again, so it was kind of fun. But anyway, he gave me this killer CD. I've never heard of Chemican. They are native to Mexico.
Oh,
they are like a Mexican version of Sepultura. Lots of native instruments, lots of antiquity behind their music, but they are heavy and kind of do the painted faces thing too a little bit. But all their music's in a native language. I don't know if it's Quechua or Aymara, but anyway, so he hooked me up with this, and that's my pick of the week, because I probably won't be able to take this out of my player for the next 10 days. But as far as the rock and roll picks of the week, I think we've got some that every person needs. So,
up, Gary.
We'll just go from there. So we get right into it, and you'll see that. You gotta have these in your collection if you're a music buff. And that's it. That's what I got. Love you, Steph.
Right on. Well, then let's get into it, because I know we've got at least 10 each, and we're already 10 minutes into the show. So, and when I say it, we're supposed to keep it to 10, but you know how that is. So basically, these are albums that these are all POWs, right? These are all albums that we think are
the week. But they're debut POWs.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, I didn't pick the most obvious one. So,
and I did.
I did.
I'm glad you did. So let's start with you.
The most obvious one.
Let's start with you.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're number one.
Self-titled. Probably the greatest AOR rock record, start to finish, maybe ever. But I think it's got to be top 5.
It's definitely a great hard rock record. Even gets progressive at times.
Yeah.
I mean, Foreplay and what's the song that Foreplay rolls into?
Long time
though, and there's no, that's just a progressive metal masterpiece right there, progressive rock masterpiece, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know, I've always loved that album. It's funny because last month I was on this huge Boston kick, man. The funny thing is I was only playing the first 2 albums, because after that I like the third album, all right, but then after that I kind of lose interest.
Well, what you need to do is just get the Barry Goudreau record, and that becomes the third album. And then stage 3 becomes the 4th album, and then it all makes a little more sense. But Boston, self-titled, the first album. Actually, it segues really nicely into the second album, and that's kind of why you want to do that, because you want more. You want more of the first album, and you got it.
So I'll show
my.
I'll go ahead.
I never understood why people put down, or the band even put down, "Don't Look Back So Bad." I thought that was a great album too.
No, it's killer. It's just a continuation of the greatness of the first.
It's just a 7-year later continuation, or however many years.
Well, right. that was the downfall of the band, I think, is the fact that they just spent so much time bickering and arguing that it's almost worse than the Metallica. where it
Yep.
takes 10 years to do a record and then it sucks. But this didn't suck. I mean, even Third Stage didn't really suck, but it obviously the first album right out of the blocks was just fantastic.
Well, it's hard to beat an album that's that good for your first album as well.
You got that right. Hey, TJ just wished you a congrats on your wedding.
Yep. Thank you, TJ. In fact, let's not let that one slide because they played their first show in in a couple of years, I think. And I was looking at, like you were looking at the clips of my wedding. I was looking at the clips of the Fort Bode show. Good grief. They were hanging from the rafters. It was awesome. So I look forward to seeing them live again because they will rattle your jaws for sure.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off.
All
right, we'll go ahead. We'll go counterclockwise. So go ahead and go.
Yeah, this is my only obvious one. I had to go with Black Sabbath.
I knew someone would pull it. That's why I didn't.
Still one of the heaviest first songs on an album. One of the heaviest songs ever. One of my all-time favorites. I listened to that and to Paranoid when I was in Florida this weekend. I picked up a really nice original pressing of Paranoid. So I've been jamming those two all day long.
Well, I noticed when I was picking mine out that albums like that I really love like that, I tend to have multiple copies of. So, but here's my obvious one.
Yeah, I didn't pull that one because I knew somebody would.
Yeah. So this is an original pressing that I've had forever and ever and ever. It's still in great shape, on the Megaforce label and all that kind of stuff. And then this is a Walmart special that I usually use to play nice red vinyl. But yeah, I mean, I've always thought this was like just a great album. It's still my favorite Metallica album. It was like it's the first one I heard by them. I just love the raw youthful energy that it has. I mean, it's not perfect. There's lots of. It's almost like it's recorded live. You can tell there's stuff going on in there. I feel the same way about the first Vengeance album, which I didn't pull. It's just very raw, and it's got that youthful energy that it's hard to capture once a band gets older that you can't do it anymore. Obviously Metallica can't. But yeah, I mean, how many bands did Metallica inspire through the 80s and 90s just because of those first three records? So
pretty much all of them.
Yep.
So.
And so that was my obvious one. So go ahead, Carcass, you're back up again.
Well, I'm going to do a triple thrash threat here, but it's not really thrash because these are like super unconventional. I'll just rip through them real quick. B-52s, their first album. I actually have this one on a Mobile Fidelity pressing. Man,
I have that one signed.
This thing is so killer. And Steve, I know they're down in your neck of the woods. I have to do this one for my sweetie because she loves Phil Collins.
I love that album. That's one of my all-time favorite albums.
It has some just great moments on it. And then
I love that they reissued it with a picture of him the year of the reissue.
And he's old.
Yeah, that was such a great touch.
And then last but not least, in my triple thrash thread, I had to do this for Rob Colwell. Osric Tentacles, Earthland. I didn't include the 6 tapes that initially, but this was the first full-length record that they did. And of course, it's my favorite because it's Osric Tentacles.
That was actually of the ones I bought. That was the one I liked the most. It's the B-side has a lot of dub on it, and I really like all the dub on the B-side of that.
Yeah, they were really into the more world-sounding and kind of that era of music that mid to late 80s was kind of all into that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So, but
Gary Arton picked a couple of good ones. He picked Foreigner's first album.
Yeah, that's no doubt.
Probably could put right up there next to. And I like that album a lot. I actually like the deep cuts best. And Dreamboat Annie from Heart, another great album.
And I finally found out why they're called Foreigner.
Because they were half American and half.
Yeah.
Yep.
I found that out at trivia. So yeah, shout out to Danny's Celtic Pub in Bedford, Texas. Anyway.
So here's my
Steve.
second. I think this is the second most important hard rock album of all time. It doesn't get enough love. It's right up there with Black Sabbath, but the debut from Uriah Heep.
Yep.
Okay.
I love this thing. What's
that?
that?
I think super proggy too.
Yeah, no, it is. But I mean, early early Judas Priest. You hear a lot of this on there. They're just one of the bands that led to what we would call metal later on. And
they were one of I always consider them one of the first wave of British heavy metal bands. I mean,
and Gypsy Live is one of the best songs I've ever seen live in my life. I mean, it was so good. These guys.
Which song again?
Album. Gypsy.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought you said, but didn't hear it well. Oh, I'm up, huh? I grabbed a bunch of metal stuff, but I'm gonna grab one more rock record first because I doubt anybody else will show this besides me. I'm a big fan, but this album came out 1977, I believe. It's one of their heaviest records. It's produced by Jack Douglas, who had just finished with Aerosmith Rocks and would soon go on to do Draw the Line. And in between those two, he did this album, and it's super heavy. Now it has 0 hits on it, but it's got a bunch of great deep cuts that they play live even still, like Hello Kitties and the Taxman, and there's a bunch of them on here. But it's a great album.
Well, did you know they only had one #1 hit?
Yeah, and it was a crappy ballad from years later.
Okay, because I thought it's got to be "I Want You to Want Me" or something like that, and
I would have thought Dream Police
or Dream Police. Nope,
they were all hits, but they never got to #1.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the song, but it was a ballad. You're right, Scott.
It was a ballad from the '80s, and it was a huge song for them.
Yeah.
See, Slow, Deep, and Hard's a good one. I didn't even think about that. That would have been a great choice.
Well, I had
I've
had it in my hand, but didn't.
Okay.
I have the Japanese pressing and a U.S. pressing and a bunch of singles, and I love Cheap Trick. Always have. This album is very different from what they are known for because it's like I said, it's very heavy, and it also has a bit of a punk vibe to it, which they would shed on the next album.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
anybody
Cheap Trick.
Anybody pull the first Jimi Hendrix?
Ooh, no.
Are you experienced?
I love that album.
Great album.
This has got about 10 different covers too, but this is just the only one I pulled because, like you, Scott, I have multiple copies of stuff that I really, really like, and this is one I really, really like.
Me too.
So, I even have multiple copies of stuff I don't really like.
Well,
honest.
Same.
If the vinyl looks cool, I usually hang on to them for some silly reason. But yes,
I just remember the name of that Cheap Trick song. It's called "The Flame." That was the #1 hit.
That is exactly right. But yes, Jimi Hendrix. In fact, if you don't have, if all you got, here's my rock pick of the week. If you don't have this in your collection, you really need to, because this lit a fire. Talk about lighting the fire of heavy metal. I think that album right there in particular has some.
I'm going to add a rock pick of the week that everybody should have.
Gary.
Okay. Most people probably don't. I'm going to go with the Moxie debut.
Oh,
that's a good one. Great Canadian hard rock.
You got Tommy Bolin killing it on you. I mean, this is just a fantastic album.
I'm still looking for a copy of that. That looks. Every copy I've ever seen has massive ringwear, and mine has ringwear. I cannot find a good copy.
Actually, I found this. This is like my 5th copy before I found one with a really clean cover. And luckily, I had a nice LP and another copy, and I kind of Frankenstein them together to get like the perfect pressing. But just really killer blues rock out of Canada. I love all the Moxie records, but this one, because of it's got Tommy Bolin, it just has a special place for me.
Am I up now?
Fire away.
Boom.
Oh, damn. I got that one too.
Metal Church, the only church.
I thought I was pulling the less obvious stuff, but I had to pull that one too. That's my promo copy too.
I would have pulled it, but it's signed and on the wall, so I just didn't grab it.
I've got 2 copies of it. I've always loved this album. This is one of the original pressings here. This one, I can't remember what label it was on, but it's got the. I'd love to see one of these. I've never actually seen one of those Metal Church neck braces.
Oh, that's cool.
Man, that's killer.
I would love that. Yeah.
So this is one of the original.
Well, I need to remember that. We're gonna have to do.
I can't remember the label. This is the Elektra copy.
Yeah, because they got picked up by Elektra after it had gotten put out by another label, but that's what this one is. And then this one here is one that I searched for years. Finally got a copy. It's got a song that was recorded for the album and left off, called "Big Guns." And this is, I believe, a German pressing. Yeah, German pressing. And I believe the German pressing is the only one that has that extra song in there called "Big Guns." So, anyhow, I love this album. It's like borderline thrash metal. I mean, they were pretty much the poster boys for U.S. power metal in the 80s.
Yeah, kind of reminiscent of Agent Steel. It's more in that vein, where it's faster, a little more melodic, higher vocals,
but very raspy vocals like that.
Yeah.
See, Ryan Roebuck's on here. He said "Precious Death Southpaw." Yeah, that's a good one. I actually like the Our Precious demo, or Our Stinking demo, that came out before it even better. But Texas Flood.
Oh, by Stevie Ray.
Legend.
That's a great album.
And then here's a little congrats to you.
Thank you.
It is your turn.
Silver Mountain Shaking. That's a good one. I didn't think of that one.
Oh yeah,
Silver Mountain Shaking Brains.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then here's one. Let me post one more, and then you guys can go. Yeah, In the Sign of Evil.
Yeah.
Sodom.
I thought about grabbing that one, but people always get iffy whether that's an album or an EP. So I just left. That's my favorite Sodom, though, and it's one of my favorite.
Well, you'll be iffy about this one, Steve, because it came out the same year as On Time.
Oh, and it's got Scott's favorite Obi there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Obi we never could quite figure out what it says.
Yeah, no, my wife said what it was. It was it says like now, or I can't remember if it was now on tour. Or it's related to them touring locally or something, if I remember correctly.
Anyway, Grand Funk. It's also known as the Grand Funk Red Album, whatever.
Yep.
This thing, this is another pick of the week. You got to have this in your collection. This has got a certain sort of heaviness. It's got blues. It's got melody. But man, it rips. I love this thing. Great solo.
That album's fantastic. And the whole thing, it's
great
just
drumming. I mean, I learned to try and drum like this, and it was like the foundation of my rock metal experience. So
it's a jam. That's what it definitely. That's what it is. It's a jam. It's weird because they were such a big band, man. They were selling out stadiums multiple nights in a row, and now they're just about forgotten about. I mean, you don't hear anything from them anymore.
Well, some of that was the man. You know, they had just gotten off the Survival tour, and had sold 80 million records and sold out Shea Stadium, and they had not a penny to their name because of Capitol and because of Terry Knight, and so Zappa came in and swooped in and helped them out, renegotiated their contract, and said, you got to have a gold album. And hence, here came We're an American Band, gold LeMay, gold vinyl. And they're all sitting on the bales of hay with no clothes on because they literally didn't have enough pennies to buy clothes. But then that thing shipped, 4 million copies and whatever.
A buddy of mine sent me this in the mail just this week, which I thought was cool. It's one of those promo flats, but it's one of Mark Farner's.
Yeah,
one of Mark Farner's solo albums. I thought that was really cool. Anyhow,
here's another less obvious '70s choice that I still pull out pretty regularly and still a favorite of mine.
Yeah, good one.
Beyond, yeah.
I'm still kicking myself. He played right before the pandemic, and I didn't go see him because he was scheduled to play again like 6 months later, and then the pandemic kicked in. And I didn't get to go see him, but I was hoping to get this one signed, and then unfortunately he retired.
Man, I love that album. That's a great one.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out. We went to brunch with my parents and my sisters when they were here for the big shindig, and I was trying to tone down my T-shirt selection for the day, and I just happened to wear Captain Beyond, so never got any grief for it.
That Angel Dust is a great choice too. I didn't think about that. I love that their debut.
Let's see what everybody's saying here. So we've got Loudness, Birthday Eve. That's a good one. Actually, I actually considered it, but we only could do 10, so I was struggling to keep it down to 10. And then the next one, let's see, we got. I think Violent Termination's great. It's too bad the band doesn't like it.
Is that Razor's first? Because I don't think that's their first album, is it? Oh, that's Violent Restitution. Who's Violent Termination?
If I'm gonna make sure I'm correct on it.
Angel Dust.
Devastation. Yeah, it's Devastation.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's what I thought it was, but I just want to make sure because you second guessed me. But yeah, because that's the one that the band doesn't like that album, which is unfortunate because I would love to put that thing out on vinyl again.
Well, the thing is when you heard the songs played live, it was like a Destruction album. You know, those first several Destructions, the production's so awful, but you hear them play those songs live, and you're like, okay, songs are great, production's bad, I can live with the songs. Same on that Devastation. I wish they'd have re-recorded those when they got back together in 07, 08.
They need to do what Cavalera just did with the first couple Sepulturas, because
or just leave it alone.
Amazing.
And
just leave it alone and put it out the way it is. I know it's not what you exactly wanted, but the fans like it.
Yeah,
and we've all heard it a million times, and we love it the way it is. Here's my argument for that. Just recently, a label approached me about putting out Ultimatum's first Fatal Delay on vinyl. And I was like, really? You want to put that piece of garbage out on vinyl? And they were like, yeah, I love that album. And I'm like, I hate that album. I don't want anybody to ever hear that album ever again. He goes, yeah, but the fans love it. I'm like
5 copies of it. What do you mean?
Yeah, yeah. So anyhow, I agree to it, and it's coming out on vinyl now. So
Give the people what they want, Scott.
yeah, it's going to be a split release. Actually, it was just announced last week, so it's not. I'm not breaking any new news, but there's going to be 2 albums. They're called Gems, and it's going to be they're releasing 4 to 5 song demos. On each one will be a split with 2 bands, and Ultimatum will be on volume 2 with the Musketeers 1990 demo on the
Nice.
B side.
That's a great demo. I like that one.
So, all right, my pick. This is my last one of the '70s stuff, but
Yep, perfect.
little prog pomp, whatever you want to call it. Not quite as heavy as they would get. After this album, the keyboards got toned down with the guitars coming out front more, but here is more of a mixture of both. But I mean, you can't go wrong with this
album, though. I thought that was great.
I don't. I used to think it was their best album, and I love this album. So don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have picked it if I don't. But I really think the 2 follow-ups were just as good, if not better, just because
I like Hell of a Band, but the one after that's a little rough. What's the one with the white cover?
Oh no, you're way out.
Hotter than hell?
No,
hotter than
you're white hot.
Okay, yeah, that one's kind of hard to listen to, but
is that it? I don't know. But anyhow, that was like their 5th album, I think, the one you're talking about. And that album was supposed to be that was Sinful. That's the one you're thinking of with the white cover. Yeah, because it was originally supposed to be called something different with a different album cover, and the record company at the last second.
It looked like the Bee Gees on the front cover with the all white and the.
Yeah, and that's not what it was supposed to be at all. But in any case, there's actually some pressings of it that have the wrong. If you look at the center label, it has the wrong title on the center labels because they didn't trash the records. They kept them and put them inside the new covers. So anyhow, Angel, yeah,
I see a lot of killer like Angel Dust, Into the Dark Past, Psalm 9 by Trouble, Blue Oyster Cult, Blind Illusion.
I almost pulled the Blue Oyster Cult, and I thought Scott might pull it, so I didn't.
Well, we still got more to go. So
okay, well,
I also didn't pull this one, which. Either one of these, which I really, really thought about both of them.
I did pull the Kiss, and I put it back.
No.
I just tried to keep it not from so obvious ones,
Yeah, that's why I put it back.
And this one here may be one that this next one. Are you up next, Carcass?
Yes, I am, and I'm kicking myself even as we speak, since I had 18 copies to show you of the same record.
I thought for sure you'd go that one.
No, and one like you, I keep trying to tone it down, and I just there's just too much. So here, how about this?
Oh, nice.
Gamma Side Victims of Science.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great.
I still play this thing on regular rotation, man. This thing shreds. And then what you guys did with it on CD, or when you remastered it, oh my gosh, that thing is incredible. I mean, it's
I love the way it sounds.
And by the way, shout out to Hell's Heroes 2025. Guess who's on the main stage? Gamma Side. Yes, you heard me right. So Varnum, Scott, and Rick, and probably Joey, and either Steve Murphy or Clay McCarty. So I'm gonna go rip you a new one.
I pulled this one just for Metal Rob, who is not.
I'm just gonna hold this up because somebody just mentioned.
Yeah, I thought about grabbing that one too, but I knew you would grab it.
Yep, I did.
I pulled this one especially for Metal Rob, though. It's also an album that I played. I wore out the tape when this came out, but Wicked Sensation from Lynch Mob.
Well, I actually like that. I didn't like the stuff that he was doing after that, but that's actually a pretty good record.
That was the best thing he released is Lynch Mob, I think. He had some songs here and there, but that album was the only full album that was really good.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought about
Buy Trouble.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Again, I just noticed every single record that I pulled, I had multiple copies of. So I have my original from my original first record collection that I had that I sold back in 1989 when I became a super Christian and had to sell off all my stuff. For some reason, I kept this one, probably because it had the Christian connotations going on there. So I still have, this is one of the few records from my original collection I still have left. And it's one of those ones that was on the white vinyl for Metal Blade. But then years ago, I found this one, and this is a bonsai pressing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know why the bonsai pressings are very collectible, but people pay crazy money for these bonsai pressings.
Well, they didn't do a bunch of pressings. They usually only did one pressing of the bonsai.
Yeah, so there's the label. but I put this thing on Discogs that was in my collection, and I've had several people contact me. Hey, we sell that? No.
No. Why would you?
So anyhow, that was my next pick. That's just a great, I don't know, doom album, I guess you call it. I don't know. Obviously, very Black Sabbath inspired. Eric Wagner's got such a unique, shrill voice that I've always loved.
That's another super important band, though. I mean, he did beat out the other doom bands by a couple years there with that album, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and by the way,
and that cover art's fantastic.
Yeah, and just an FYI, Remnants of Trouble and the Skull and whatever they have all Corrosion of Conformity. They've formed Legion of Doom, and man, it's crushing the stuff. If you like Trouble, Psalm 9, you'll love that. Okay, I pulled one. This one's for TJ.
You guys, have you heard that album?
Yes.
Carcass?
Yes.
Dude, that's a 12 out of 10 record there. It's so good.
That is.
I just happened to have it behind me because I was listening to it.
I've been playing it so much since I bought that.
Okay, this one's for TJ Lewis of Forebode. This is a War Master Pyramid of the Necropolis test pressing on blue vinyl of all things. And I know it's 2011. In fact, Sawblade drew this cover on a napkin at a Five Guys when we went to lunch one time, and this ended up being the cover for the test pressing. But I know it's 2011, but this is the best 90s Swedish death metal band or death metal record in a long, long time. This thing is incredible. So if you can get your hands on a copy of War Master Pyramid of the Necropolis, grab it like a rabbit and run, because this thing is so killer.
Quick question for you guys: is my air conditioner just kicked on? Is it making noise, or can you hear it?
No.
Nope.
Sorry, I didn't want to mess up the broadcast.
So this is another obvious one for me, but it's just another one of the super important albums. You brought up Metallica. Metallica doesn't have their sound without this record.
Yep.
We have the White Album from Diamond Head. Another 12.
I love that album.
Record. This thing is so good. If you don't have a copy of this, High Roller did this repress right here, and it sounds fantastic. Originals, I'm kicking myself. I ran across an original 10 years ago, signed by two members for $100. I thought it was too much, and now that's like a $2,000 record. You can't get it for under $1,000 now. But fantastic. Any pressing of this is a must-have. Definitely should have it in your collection.
TJ said, "So fortunate to have shared the stage with Eric and Skull." Yep.
Yep.
That was was that the show? That was the last show, I believe.
That was here at Division Brewery in Division Brewing in Arlington. And yes, because that was Tribal Gaze, Combat, Forebode, and the Skull.
Yep, and that was his last show.
And Wino.
Yep, and we actually did the Metal Roundtable we did his final interview. It's still on the channel, so
yeah, I talked about it. It was so sad. They were supposed to play here, and at the last minute they canceled because he got hospitalized the day of the show that was supposed to take place here, and never made it out of the hospital. So it was just Wino who did Wino did like a 2-hour set of every band he's ever been in because the Skull wasn't playing. He did a fantastic show that night, and then hung out for like half an hour signing stuff for everybody. So
TJ Lewis said yes, and he's obviously responding to what you showed, Carcass. But I actually considered pulling a Yes album, but man, the first album's just not my favorite from them. So I didn't another one. So anyhow, I'm up, huh?
Yep.
This is one I don't think anybody here will necessarily pull.
That's a good one. I didn't think about that. That's a great.
I love this album. I've got like 4 copies on vinyl. This is the original cover. This is the
updated
later cover, which I don't really care for all that much. I much prefer the original.
Actually, it's supposed to be that one with the blood. Didn't you do both of those though?
I did not do the one with the blood. I recreated this one because they didn't have it anymore, so I recreated it. Now this one came out years ago before I was really doing all this, but this is back in 2011 when this one came out. This one here is 2020. Okay. But yeah, there's actually original pressings on this thing too, but they're only released in Europe and they sell for ridiculous amounts of money. But Tourniquet, great band. If anybody's not familiar with them,
shot up too.
Yeah, Ted Kirkpatrick, drummer, who was the only member who stayed in the band all the way to the end. He passed away 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um, but the musically, it's fast. I wouldn't call it thrash. High. The vocals are weird because at times he sings in a clean mid-tone voice. Other times he sings in a real high, like King Diamond, nasty savage style. And then sometimes there's these lower growled vocals all mixed in. It's kind of, I don't know, technical speed metal. Was that what you'd call it? I don't know.
That's probably a safe assumption there.
Yeah, I mean, Agent Steel, but more progressive.
Yeah. Wow.
But in any case,
Agent Steel meets Watchtower.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So anyhow, great album. And in case anybody cares, they were a Christian band, but the lyrics are very. You're not going to hear, rock for the rock or that kind of stuff on here. It's all very poetic and very well put together. Fantastic lyrics, mostly based on biblical principles, but also there's like the song Ark of Suffering is about animal abuse, and Ted Kirkpatrick was a huge animal rights activist. So it's not all it's not all preachy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Did anyone pull Exodus Bonded by Blood?
No, I figured one of you guys would, so I purposely didn't.
Okay, well, I didn't for that very reason, but that's not one of my it's not one of my favorite records, honestly. I mean, I actually like the re-recording, but I know that's blasphemous. So I pulled this. Terrorizer, World Downfall, and how many bands were spawned from this mess? Jesse Pintado went to Napalm.
Put it up again so we can all see it.
Terrorizer, World Downfall. You talk about the border between death metal and crust and thrash. Here it is. This is kind of like in the same vein as another band similar to them. Repulsion.
Oh man, I love that record.
Grinding, dirty guitars, thrashy vocals. Everyone says they're grindcore. They're really not. I think they're more of a dirty thrash record, but this is another pick of you got to have this in your collection because this had David Vincent and Pete Sandoval, obviously from Morbid Angel, Oscar Garcia, that was the bass for Nausea, and then Jesse Pintado went on to play for years and years in Napalm Death until his passing. But man, this thing rips, and this is actually an original pressing. There's a promo pressing on green vinyl, and I don't know. The Hammer told me it was worth a ton of cash, but I don't know. I just love it because it's a killer record. I mean, I don't care that it's on green, although I don't know, kind of cool.
Yeah, kind of a turquoise blue-green color, nice.
But anyway, yeah, that's another one that needs to be in everybody's collection. That thing's so good.
So my next album is some Hometown Heroes, a band that was huge when I was growing up. I saw them quite a few times through about 95. But their debut is by far the best thing they ever released. Doomsday for the Deceiver.
Oh yeah.
Jetsam.
This
one is the I think 2006. 2012.
That one as well.
2012 they reissued it, and the remastering. I love the original, and I still play that from time to time. They did such a great job remastering this, though. Yeah, didn't I send that to you?
No, I bought this one. No, I bought this one, but you missed. Yeah, but this is
just a classic. It's always been thrash to me. Some people say it's not. I say they're wrong. But there you go.
They say that's not thrash? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that say it's not thrash.
It's funny because when I bought this album as a new album growing up, and I was into thrash. I was into Metallica and that kind of stuff, which was all coming out at the same time. I didn't consider it thrash at the time either. I considered it just like metal church, kind of power metal kind of stuff. But I don't ever argue with people who say it's thrash because it's right on that edge. So,
well, are those
go either way?
Are those the same people that don't think Iron Maiden or Judas Priest?
No.
Metal. Here you go.
But I always wondered why, because one of my favorite songs by them didn't make this album, which is "I Live You Die," but it's on the B side of the.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Is that wasn't on there either, was it?
No Place for Disgrace?
Yeah, Flotzilla's on there.
Was it on the original album?
You know, it was on the original cassette and CD. It was not
Okay,
on
yeah, it wasn't originally on the album. You had to buy that single to get Flotzilla,
Yep.
which I thought was crazy because that was like their main their big song, you know. Oh, and I just want TJ mentioned Power Trip. I totally forgot about them, but I was literally just listening to this earlier today.
That's a killer. Like it's like
so good.
Yeah, it's like a cleanup of all their singles and demo stuff and whatever. That's that is
there you go. Look at that, man after your own heart there.
Well, I just flashed him with the Earthland.
That's another great album too.
Osric Tentacles, love it or leave it.
Yeah, they Gary asked about Tourniquet and the medical themes. Yeah, Ted Kirkpatrick was involved somehow in the medical field, and yes, although that first album not as much. The second and third album, tons of matter of fact, every album after that had lots of like very confusing and deep medical terms and terminology.
I think like, Carcass wins with medical terminology, though.
Yeah, I think they pretty much take the rotting piece of cake on that one. But yes,
who showed the last record?
I did.
You did. All right. Well, I've got extras, and I might as well just show this one because somebody actually said it.
Yeah, that's another one I didn't pull on purpose.
I love this album. I saw them on this tour, Twisted Sister opening up, and it was a fantastic show. I'll never forget it. Tower Theater, the place was packed. They got so big in Philadelphia, by the next year they sold out the Spectrum, and Twisted Sister opened up again. And yeah, it was just a mayhem. And then they ended up recording 2 different live recordings at the Spectrum.
And a video too.
Yeah, one for Last in Line, and they recorded it. And then again the next year when they did the big dragon and everything, that was also recorded at the Spectrum. But yeah, Philadelphia loved Dio.
Yep, and so did we.
Not much you got to say about that one, other than this great guitar player that played on here, who now plays. I don't even know what he does. Stands on stage and looks pretty, I guess.
Who is that?
What's that? The guitar player for Def Leppard now.
Oh, Phil Collin?
No. Come on, I'm forgetting his name. I'm not. I keep thinking Jimmy Bain. That's the bass player. Vivian Campbell.
Oh, Vivian Campbell. Yeah,
Vivian Campbell. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Okay, TJ said something about insect warfare, world extermination. Yeah, except I think they had a previous album before that. I'd have to look that up, but I think they did. But that was their first major release on Earache. But how about this? Anybody pull this? Toxic Holocaust.
Man, I love that. I just bought that reissue of that. Oh, it's so good.
Now I have original pressings. I have I have basically the recording that he made on his iPhone in a supermarket parking lot, and then added drums to it later. And then then the remastered, reissued one where he just basically re-recorded the whole album. And I've got yellow vinyl, black vinyl, split vinyl, radiation vinyl, 180 gram, whatever. And anyway, this thing rules. I love this record. I love everything about Toxic Holocaust. They've never put out
one of my favorite live bands, man. Every time I see them, they blow away everybody else.
They absolutely destroy. You better bring your A game and then some with Toxic Holocaust, no doubt.
So this is another classic that, man, every time I see it, I buy it to send to other people or to upgrade a copy. That's one of my all-time favorite records. Grim Reaper.
Oh, yeah.
See you in hell, my friend.
Just 10 out of 10. This is one of my top 10 new wave British heavy metal records right there. Unfortunately, with each record after this, they got a little worse. But man,
I kind of like the follow up.
I like them, but like I said, I like them less and less. I think by the third one, they were getting kind of cheesy. And the one they released like 5 or 6 years ago, I can't listen to at all. I don't like it at all. But man, this is just one of those perfect albums. I've heard this probably 2,000 times, and I never get sick of anything on here.
And that's another one of those guys who's no longer with us.
Yeah, we lost him during the pandemic, didn't we?
Yep. Yeah, he was on all kinds of issues. So
yeah. Ooh, Whiplash is a good one too. Man, you guys are knocking some killers out there. I don't know about Meatloaf. Maybe the best album cover for a first album.
Well, you had said new wave of British heavy metal, so I had to pull the.
I thought about pulling that one, but that's my least favorite of the first four. Even though I love
I
that.
love this album, man. I
I
play
love
this
it.
thing
I
a
love
lot.
it. Don't get me wrong.
This is actually an original pressing, so it's got the first pressing was actually autographed by the whole band in various color Sharpies, but or markers. They probably weren't even Sharpies back then. But yeah, I love this album. It's got all the little ticket stubs inside of it, and the backstage passes and all the crap that came in it for free. And I just happen to also have the old picture disc as well. Not that I ever play this. This is more of a collector's thing than anything else. But this is raw. I mean, this is precursor to thrash metal. It's so fast. Nobody sounded like Raven. Nobody. And those guys still put on a fantastic show.
Man, when you can, every time I've seen them, they don't live far from here, and I see them at least once a year. And every time I see them, they spend at least an hour after the show hanging out with people, signing.
Yep.
When Scott came out here and we went and saw him, there was a guy that came from Europe to see him, and he had was it Europe or Asia? I can't remember, but he had like 15 albums, and they sat there with him and signed every single one of them, talking, hanging out. They're one of the coolest bands to hang out with after a show.
No doubt. You're up again, Carcass.
Oh, I was going to give TJ the update on the Insect Warfare. They had an album in 2006 called Endless Execution Through Violent Restitution. And then they followed that up with Evolved into Obliteration. And that was for our DIY deals. And then World Termination was their first full-length debut on a major label, which was Earache. So that's what that is. But
TJ said Scum from Napalm Death. That's a good choice.
That's a good choice.
Angel Witch. That's a good choice.
Yeah, that's probably. I go back and forth between that and Iron Maiden as my number one.
Entombed Left Hand Path. So how would we disseminate that one? Because they were actually Nihilist. Then they released one album with some of the songs that ended up on Left Hand Path, and they changed their name and it became Entombed. But either one.
And
okay, I have some pretty unconventional ones here for my last one, so I'll just get this one out of the way. This is a band called Tyrannosaurus. It was my first dive into. This is members of Tolar, Mammoth Grinder, Steel Bearing Hand. They're a local band, and this is my first dive into like blackened funeral ambient death metal doom. So
that was a whole lot of words, man.
If you can find a Tyrannosaurus, it's out on Tofu Carnage Records.
Sound like Kamala Harris.
I do like Mammoth Grinder.
Yeah. Well, Tofu Carnage Records has them, but Tyrannosaurus, and it's spelled just like its name. But I'm telling you, this thing is a ripper. And I'm thinking that it's the only thing that they put out, which is unfortunate. Oh, they also are in guys from Cleric, which are still touring today. And
is that $20 spin?
No, that's Tofu Carnage Records, okay. Senor. So I don't know. I'm guessing that's just somebody making fun of, but anyway, Tyrannosaurus, if you can find it, grab it. It is so worth it. Steve-O?
So this is one of my all-time favorite albums. It's an album that a lot of people missed. So Dave Lombardo left Slayer, and the first thing that he did was a band called Grip Incorporated. And man, this album has always been a 10 out of 10 for me. Finally got repressed, real limited, but I finally got this one on vinyl. It's always been a favorite of mine. I like all the Grip Incorporated stuff, but this first album that they released, I think it was like 94.
Yeah, something like that.
93, man, this was so good. You still have a little bit of that Slayer sound, but more towards the groove metal. And man, it's just one of those perfect albums. If you guys haven't checked this one out, hit up Spotify and check it out. It's a fantastic album that just didn't get enough love when it came out.
How many albums you guys have left?
That was 3. That was 10.
I have 3 just because I had backups.
I have backups too, but I had to pull. That's why I lost count, because I had to put some of mine away that you guys showed. All right. So anyhow, somebody mentioned this one. I'm going to show it because this is one of my backups. But the first Galactic Cowboys. This album is brilliant. Nobody sounds like them. I still love this band.
That's not true. The Beatles sounded like them.
The Beatles were never that heavy.
They sound like the heavy metal Beatles.
Just they do use a lot of the Beatle-esque vocal harmonies, but that's about it. That's the only comparison I would do. But King's X did that same thing, and so did there's a few bands that were doing that, and mostly all out of Houston with the same producer, Sam Taylor.
I think they were more obvious about it, though. I mean, I think they more had the Beatles sound, whereas King's X, they did the harmonization, but more like in the Alice in Chains way.
Yeah, and
that's an interesting way of putting it.
They also had multiple lead singers. The Galactic Cowboys did so. Yeah, but I'll show another one before I.
Sure.
This one, somebody mentioned this one too. This is another one I pulled out in the backup.
Yeah, that's a great record.
Yeah. Extraction from Mortality, the first Believer album. This is just pure thrash metal. I mean, people call it tech thrash, but they didn't really start getting really technical till after this one. This was just raw energy.
Sanity Obscure was the tipping point for me. That thing just rips, and then after that, it gets a little muddled. But yeah, I dig that record.
And then I got one more here, and then I'll save one to the end because I've got a couple more here. But this was actually one that I had pulled to show.
I knew you were going to.
I thought about pulling that one too. Yeah,
I love this album, and I like all the Cirith Ungol albums, but this one is still my favorite. It's the one I reach for. Even the new albums, which I love. I'll play one of those, and then I'm like, I got to go pull the other one. I got to pull Frost and Fire because it's just such a great album. And these guys were a 70s band. This was early. What was it, 82, 83, something in that area? Yeah. But yeah, it was originally released like independently, I believe, and then later on, Metal Blade picked it up.
And talk about just killer artwork. I mean, that I bought that record just because of the artwork.
Yeah, it's freaking fantastic.
And then learned to like the music.
Well, and I read books. I read all the Elric books because of the artwork. I thought the artwork was so cool. I found out that it was from the Elric books, and I read all of those.
Yeah, music's interesting. It's like almost Sabbath-inspired doom, but it's kind of more of an epic doom, and pushing more towards straightforward heavy metal at times too. So, of course, and the vocals are you either love them or hate them. Much like Eric Wagner, they're kind of in that same vein. But I personally love them, so I've been a fan of that band since the 80s.
So Charles mentioned Sacred Reich. I was going to pull him, but I thought that was a little too on the nose for me since I talk about him in almost every video that we do. So I decided not to pull him this time. And Coroner is another all-time favorite of mine. That's a great choice too.
That Forced Entry, as above, so below, something like that. Or no, it's got the guy in the water doing this because he fell off the ship or something. That thing rules. I love that record. Anyway, I got 3 left. Can I just run through them and then you can
go for it?
Can hit cleanup. So I got something old, something kind of in the middle, and something new. So something old, Therion of Darkness. This is classic 90s Swedish death metal, and it's like a perfect album. It's kind of like the War Master. It's start to finish. It's untouchable. Their second album, Equal to the Task, and then after that, it just got weird.
I always love that album cover too. That's always been a favorite of mine.
Now they've got opera singers and violins and cellos and timpani drums and whatever. But man, this thing is a no-brainer if you're a death metal freak. Therion Into Darkness. This is an original pressing, and it's just absolutely brazen. Here's something kind of in the middle. Abath is no stranger to this. Is not new music. This is Abath who's been with Immortal for all his years, but this thing is absolutely killer. This is his debut solo record, and man, this thing freaking rules. And once again, I have the black copy, the white copy, the gold copy, the red copy, the splattered copy, the green copy, the gold copy.
You know what I liked about those guys, though? Of all the black metal bands, especially their early albums, they were always in on the joke with the makeup and stuff. All the other bands were all serious about it. And those guys, they were always in on the joke with it.
Well, you know what Abath told me once backstage? He says, we're a serious black metal band, except we just take a shower after we're done. And those other guys didn't. They smelled like death for the whole tour or whatever. And then here's my last one. This is a new one. Mortiferum. Once again, you're dipping into funeral doom, death metal, ambient things. But this is Disgorged from Psychotic Depths. I mean, how metal is that? That sounds super metal, but this thing is an absolute crusher. Killer production, just deep, dark songs. Probably a must on Profound Lore Records. So anyway, that's my pile. And like you said, Steve, we could go on for days.
So Don mentioned Death Angel. I didn't pull that because I thought Scott was going to. I love that first album.
Psychotic Waltz and Social Grace. That's a good one.
I'm surprised you didn't pull the Dark Angel too.
Oh. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, there was just so many of it, man. It was just
Seditions. Did they have was that a full length? That wasn't a full. I think that was that actually was. It had 9 songs on it. I have the tape. I actually bought the tape from them.
I mean, the other thing is people. I'm sure it's like doesn't he always show Aerosmith and Ted Nugent and Thin Lizzy, and I didn't pull any of that stuff. UFO. Yeah. I was actually talking to Rob on the phone before they started the show, and I'm going to show a couple records that we talked about from him, and I was just saying that those bands like UFO, Accept, Scorpions, a lot of those bands started off very different, and I don't necessarily think their first albums are their best or my favorites. Some people like them, and I actually love the first Scorpions and the first Aerosmith, but to say it's like a perfect record, like better than Rocks, I can't say that. But anyhow, so I just didn't pull any of those. But
that's why the Boston I think is consistent across the board, because I'd say that's for what it is. That's a perfect AOR rock record.
I pulled this one.
Oh yeah,
I kind of thought you were going to pull that one,
which is really raw, terrible recording, which worked perfectly for them. All the songs except for one are super fast to the point of being speed metal. The only song that's not fast is also super heavy, which is Destroyer, which has the one vocal performance by Mark the Animal Mendoza. But yeah, this is 2 different pressings, 2 different versions. One of them is the black label, one of them is the yellow label. Difference between the 2, one of them has at the end of the Day of the Rocker. The very last song, it goes Day of the Rock, and then it gets into the groove, and then it goes rock, 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 and it never stops unless you pick up the needle. The other one doesn't do that. And then, of course, there's this one here, which I don't like anywhere near as much, which was the 80s remix of the album, and they added a couple tracks as well. It's okay. I just prefer the raw original mix, which was done by Pete Way of UFO fame.
Wow.
He was the producer on that one.
Venom, Welcome to Hell. I didn't pull that one, but I had it in my hand.
This is one of the ones I talked about putting in my pile when I talked to Rob. Don't care what anybody thinks of Cinderella. I love them, and I think this is a fantastic album. It's almost a glam version of Aerosmith, really, in sound and songwriting and everything else.
I don't even think it's a glam version. It's blues rock. They've never. I mean, they had the glam hair.
I think they get lumped in there because of their appearance. But you're right, Steve. They're just a killer bluesy rock.
I can see them saying that in their second, third, and fourth album. But this album was really a little more on the pop metal sound. It wasn't quite as bluesy as the albums that followed up. I mean, Long Cold Winter, there's no doubt about it, but
I saw them open for David Lee Roth, and they were fantastic. I mean, they were heavy, they were fast, they had good licks, it was great. They were the perfect setup for David Lee Roth.
I was gonna pull that one, and I decided not.
This is pretty much the only album from them I even care about.
The
second album's okay too. I just anything after this, anything after the first 2, I could care less. But
it just doesn't kickstart your heart, huh?
Doesn't start me. There's a song here and there I like, but I don't ever listen to them, to tell you the truth.
That's a good one, TJ. Down from Nola from Down.
That Motley Crue's first one.
Album.
This is like heavy metal meets the Raspberries. That's kind of how I see it.
Well, he said it. He said he was listening to Power Pop and the Stars, and it was a mix of Power Pop and Stars.
Yeah,
that first album.
Hey,
2 more to go.
Just before you get started, I'm surprised you didn't pull Montrose.
I did not pull Montrose, but I thought about it.
Yeah, okay.
I was trying to get more into the metal because I was starting to pull out too many 70s. Matter of fact, I also pulled this one and wasn't going to show it, but I am going to show it.
Love the cover.
One of my all-time favorite album covers, and I love the record itself. I think it's their best album. I love Bebop Deluxe. They have everything to put out.
Record Store Day, 2 or 3 years ago, they did that 3 LP version of the live album. Oh my God.
Got it.
So good.
fantastic. And then, of course, I just showed this one, but this is the debut of Hammerfall. But I heard the Dragon Lies Bleeding and was just, my jaw was on the floor, and I've been a fan ever since. Seen him live a couple times.
It's funny you pulled that one. I almost pulled the Blind Guardian too, because that first Blind Guardian was so heavy and such a different
heavy and
sound.
thrash. Yeah, it was almost a thrash album. Yeah. And I also almost pulled the first Gravedigger as well, but I didn't. So, and there's just so many great albums you could pull. But yeah, I still love this record to this day. That's still my favorite Hammerfall album.
What was the Blind Guardian? Was that Walls of Jericho?
No, Walls of Jericho was Halloween.
Oh, that's right.
I can't think of the name of it. Halloween. That's a fantastic album too, man. Kai was so good on those first couple thrash albums but before they went the power metal route, man, so good. So many of those bands, though. Iced Earth too, very very thrashy early on, and he always kept thrash throughout, but moved more towards the power metal like a lot of those bands did. But man, yeah, fantastic.
East Coast greater than the West Coast?
Ooh.
I can't go there, man. And actually, some of the Southern stuff is amazing. Some of the East Coast stuff is amazing. The West Coast. Some of my favorite bands are from Cleveland, which is one of the worst cities on earth.
Email Steve at.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the latest Blind Guardian, which was what is it called, Scott? The God Complex.
That doesn't sound I'm looking it up right now. Give me a second.
It's the God song. Oh, it was so good. Every song is about a different god from literature. So there's like a song called American Gods.
So Battalions of Fear was the first album.
Thank you.
You're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about Blind Guardian, right? And then the last album they put out, which was this year, is Somewhere Far Beyond Revisited.
That's not new stuff though. What was the one from like 2 years ago? It's a God Complex, right?
Oh, the God Machine.
Or God Machine. God Machine. Thank you. Oh man, that album was so good. That was my album of the year. What was that, 2022 or 2023? That was my album of the year that year. That was a return to form because they had been doing that operatic shit for like 10 years, and I lost all respect for them. And then they came back with the God Machine and just knocked it out of the park.
TJ, how did Morbid Tales by Celtic Frost not come up?
I thought about that. I came real close, but
I thought about it too. But it's not really a full length, right?
I prefer the full lengths that came out after it.
Right. So now, and we were staying away from EPs because I would have easily taken the first Queensryche EP, and I didn't because it's an EP.
And you want
also another one of my favorite bands is
reissues. Those the Celtic Frost reissues blow away the originals. They sound so good. If you run across them, grab them.
Hey Gary, somebody mentioned Ozzy Blizzard of Oz, so yes, they got mentioned. Oh, Heavy Metal Maniac.
Yeah, Exciter. That's a good one too. I wouldn't call that an amazing album though.
Which one?
I like it, but I don't love it like the others.
Exciter.
I loved it when it came out. When it came out, it was jaw dropping because there was just nothing really like it. Those vocals were like through the ceiling, like shit, glass shattering. And the
one that got me when it came out, and it took me a long time to get into, was the Razor debut because, man, their brand of thrash was just something I was not ready for. And it really,
you talking about Armed and Dangerous or the full length?
The full length.
Yeah, because Armed and Dangerous really sounds just like Exciter to me.
Yeah, there's another one, Frozen Soul. And man, they shot to the top with a bullet. I saw them play their first show in Dallas, saw them play their second show in Dallas, and then they're telling me, yeah, we're on tour with some big major bands. And I'm like, wow, how did that happen? And then they put out a record, they put out a second record, and now they're touring the world even more. It's amazing. But Frozen Soul is legit.
Merciful Fate was a funny one for me. I like Melissa. I thought the EP was so good, though. I don't think they ever topped the EP. I think that's the best thing they ever released myself.
Is that Nuns Have More Fun? Or
yeah, it's so good. Testament to Legacy, I love that one, too. Testament's always going to be a favorite of mine.
I asked Rob what his number one pick would have been for if he was actually part of this episode, and he said Stone Trip.
Okay, so I confessed to Rob that I hadn't really listened to that thing start to finish, And when I was in the process of making room in my home for this big union of two families, I listened to that thing, and I'd stop me from working. I had to sit and just listen to it. The production is stellar. The hooks are great. The guitar work and drumming is out of this world. That is a fantastic record.
I agree.
And so for a debut album, that thing blows doors on 98% of the world's music.
And the vinyl never came, unfortunately.
And the vinyl did never come, but don't you know a guy that knows a guy?
I know lots of guys who know guys, but those guys are unfortunately signed to a label. So
oh yeah, that doesn't like putting out vinyl. But anyway, I agree with him. I have to agree with Metal Rob. I thought he was going to say Tiger Tail, so I'm glad he said Stone Trip.
I thought you were going to do the Sex Pistols, John. I expected you to.
Well, if you look in the background over my left shoulder here, yeah, that would be my ode to the Sex Pistols. I have like 16 different covers, colors, and whatever.
Nice.
But anyway, oh wow.
Oh, there's another one I forgot about. I actually have that album too. War Pig.
Oh yeah.
Great. I mean, very Black Sabbath-ish from the same time period. Never got the following that Sabbath got.
Sword albums. I like all the Sword albums, but I don't think they were. I love them, but I don't think they were like. They were kind of the time. There was a lot of that coming out at that time.
Well, we are over an hour, so we are, I guess, done. And we all showed our stack of crap we pulled.
And we could have showed bigger stacks.
Oh
of
my
crap.
gosh, I could have kept going. Yeah, I don't have any more to show actually here. I think I showed everything I had, but yeah, I did. So cool. So I guess that's it for episode number 239, favorite rock metal debut albums. You can find us at the metalroundtable.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on everywhere.
Everywhere. 128
and
rock.
128 dB.
Yep, which unfortunately it's still not working. Wait, we'll get it figured out. I'm not sure why. We're still streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, but for whatever reason, the 128 dB thing is not working. It gives me an error every time we go to it.
Well,
but you can follow.
Just to let everyone know that they are an upstart station, a streaming station. Just go to 128.com, and it's worth it. And they've just picked up a couple of really big heavy hitters, Metal Shop and some other stuff. And so it's fun to be a part of something that's growing in leaps and bounds, but there are some still technical glitches out there. But give it a chance, stick with it, just like you stuck with us for 239 episodes.
Right.
Speaking of which, I hope we said the name of all the albums that we showed today.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do that, Norm, now. But yeah, you can follow Carcass on Instagram at Carcass John Art. You can follow Steve on YouTube at Harmless Rebel 868, or I believe he's on Facebook and Instagram as well under Steve, right?
No, Instagram, it's at harmless_rebel, I believe.
And you can find me on Instagram at No Life to Metal, or you can find me on YouTube at No Life to Metal, or you can just search Scott Waters. Either one will bring you to there. And that's it. So we appreciate y'all watching and love all the people that were. Oh, look at this, is a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one. I just saw that.
Like I said, we could go on for a couple more hours, but I don't think
man.
Yeah.
Anyhow, oh, by the way, you got another congratulations. So
awesome.
Gary Ayrton said congratulations as well. And I just
appreciate it. It's wonderful when you.
Oh, look at this! We got another one. Anybody know that person?
Yes, I do. Although, wait, her name.
I feel like she had another name earlier.
Yeah. Well, that's been an odd thing. I text her or message her and I see the last name has changed and it throws me off for about a split second. So it's something we're still getting used to, but it's freaking awesome. Man, I wish everybody could have been there, but I'm not doing it.
Oh man, I wanted to be there so bad. I really did. It's just, unfortunately, I live too far away.
Even with the hiccups, it was freaking awesome. It was, everybody that was there can agree, and everybody that participated and helped make it happen. Thanks a million, man. It was just so. I think Rick Perry was right. He had told he was telling everybody this is going to be the metal event of the year. I don't know if it was the metal event of the year, but it might have been the music rock and roll event of the year, and I don't think it disappointed very many people. So anyhow,
right on. Well, you know how we all do it at the very end. So give me 5 seconds to find our log out thing, and there it is, and we are ready to go. So for episode number 239 of the Metal Roundtable, metal will prevail. And then this is where I leave you all hanging so you can make silly faces and flip people off and